Okay, yep, I'm here. Sorry, just finding the mute button. So, everybody can hear me okay? Great. Nice to see you all. Glad I have a chance to chat with you about yellow-faced bees and kind of the work I got to get to do with yellow-faced bees, and then kind of the ongoing work that's there in Hawaii. And I think kind of the next generation could jump on the conservation work and really start, I guess, I tried to put together as many resources as I could, packaged together through the Bishop Museum. I'm going to share all that with you guys. And I just recently found out that the partner that I had at the Bishop Museum actually passed away in July. So that was Jim Boone, and he was instrumental in getting us this grant with the Disney Foundation, the Disney Conservation Funds, and really kind of pushed to get this exhibit up and running at the Bishop Museums. And it's he was a good friend of mine as well, so it's kind of sad to know that he just recently passed. But kind of carrying on the work that I started with him in at the Bishop, and kind of just trying to see if any teachers would like to share this with their students and maybe get yellow-faced bee conservation started, in second grade, third grade, fourth grade. So kind of getting the young advocates understanding the issues that yellow-faced bees face and why they're important and all of that. So how many people know about yellow-faced bees that are here or have heard much about them? We got one or two thumbs up. Okay. So I'm going to give you just a brief so I have a huge PowerPoint presentation. It's like over 100 slides, but I'm just going to jump around in that. I kind of just keep everything together in the same spot. So I think I might have to, I'm not sure if I have to be co-host to share my screen. I see the button down there. So I'm going to give it a try.
You have permission.
I have permission. All right, cool.
Yep.
So let's see. Not seeing the window I'm looking for.
Jason, okay. Where are you joining us from?
Oh, sorry. I'm joining from California. And actually, I'll share this real quick. We were talking about gardens, school gardens, and now I'm a middle school teacher. And I'm teaching science. And this is some of my students right now in Pleasanton that are building their first community, kind of school community garden. So I'll just kind of scroll through this a little bit. You see we're building some raised beds. And the kids are super thrilled when they, accomplish something like building with real tools. And they planted seeds on our first day in science, and so those are kind of starting to sprout. We got a little greenhouse or tunnel kind of set up that we're growing some plants in because it gets cold here in California. And so this is kind of some of the other work that they're doing. But yeah, it's a fun group. I'm teaching them about solitary bees as well. So we have some solitary bee nests out in our community garden. There's a learning lab. So we have holes drilled in wood that we can check to see if solitary bees move in. And the kids actually saw a Hylaeus the other day. So we have Hylaeus in California as well, just not the same species that you have in Hawaii. So I'm trying to stop share and switch share real quick. Sorry if you get dizzy. There we go. So this is the presentation that I've been giving ever since, I guess, I was invited to Iolani to give a talk about yellow-faced bees and prepared a lot of this. And then I've just been building on it year after year every time a school asks for a presentation about bees. So this is about where we start talking about the bees that are found only in Hawaii. And let's see. Let's go down just a bit. Okay, so there are, and those are the Hawaiian yellow-faced bees, and there's over 60 species of these bees that are only found in Hawaii. The one that I got to know the best was Hylaeus anthracynus, and it looks like this when compared to a honeybee. So they're about a quarter of the size. They're pretty small. And they don't, otherwise you wouldn't, I guess if you didn't know that they were bees, it'd be hard to tell because they don't make honey. They don't sting to defend their nest. And there's not like a queen and thousands of workers. They're just the single mom. They go out and they make their own nest in usually a cavity that they find that's just the right size. So this is their life cycle. They start out as an egg, and then they'll eat the pollen and nectar that their mom provided for them in their nest, and they'll grow into a larva, and then they'll start to turn into kind of this white pupa, and then it darkens, and then for a day or two they have legs but no wings, and then they are fully formed adults when they have wings and can fly out of the nest and mate and continue the cycle. So here's some bees on tree heliotrope. And that's at James Campbell Wildlife Refuge. So that's one of the few populations that we know of where these guys still exist. And their range is super small. So kind of just that size cluster of tree heliotrope seems to be about their range, where they go out to the flowers for pollen, and then they store it in their nest. And by doing so, they're also transferring pollen from flower to flower and helping those plants to grow. They also are found in Naupaka, and they nest in the stems of these plants, the hollowed out stems. And they also nest in coral rubble that washes up. So if you've been over to Kaiwi coastline, you see that all the coral that washes up, and we have all these kind of holes in the coral rubble that are made by marine invertebrates. When they wash up, some of these are the perfect size holes for these yellow-faced bees to nest in. Here's a female nesting in one of the pukas, and these are the only bee that I know of that nests in coral rubble like this. And this is them nesting in the twigs. So the hollowed out stems of Naupaka and tree heliotrope, they nest. That's what their nests look like. They have, some people call them cellophane bees because they line their nest with cellophane. They paint it on, and then kind of with their mouth parts, they have brush-like mouth parts that they paint it on with. And it's a secretion and liquid at first, and then it dries into this kind of cellophane material. There's actually somebody in the Bay Area looking into synthesizing that, so making kind of a synthetic version for looking at the compounds to see if it would be worthwhile to make a synthetic version as like a decomposable plastic, so or compostable plastic. And this is one of the nests. So we'll see how the mom go in, and she'll make cell after cell like this. So we'd expect each of these cells to have one egg in it that's going to develop into another adult bee. So this female's putting in at least 4 new adult bees. These are kind of the populations that we see on Oahu. And I set up these blocks with plastic tubing inside, and the bees are able to go in and use that. And this was really helpful for data collection to see how many cells do they make, how many, what's their population, is it looking like where it's increasing or decreasing, is there anything else affecting the nests? And we found that ants are a really big problem for these bees. We also found some funguses being transferred, possibly between pollen or other bees that visit the plants. And so this is helpful for research to be able to find out more about what may be limiting these populations. And I think also a really cool thing to set up in a garden to kind of, if it's being monitored, to be able to see, like it says sentinel sites, to see if yellow-faced bee has spread into some of the backyard gardens that y'all are providing. So we all do have some other bees found in Hawaii that are not native, but they are still good pollinators. This is Xylocopa sonorina. So that's the large carpenter bee. That's a male. This is a male next to a female. So they have morphology where the females are black and the males are yellow. Males also can't sting, but the females could if kind of held in your hand or something like that. But they're not very defensive because they're like solitary bees as well, where solitary bees just don't defend their nest. They won't sting to defend their nest. But if you held one of them, then they may try to sting to get free. So these are good for schools if you have, the kids understanding, don't hold on to the bees, and, we just watch respectfully kind of thing. These are some other non-native bees that are in Hawaii. So this is the small carpenter bee. We have a few leafcutter bees and the honeybee. So then I have kind of this whole thing about when the honeybees arrived in Hawaii. I also use this for teaching about pollination. So I have this kind of fun game. You may be really good at this, I would imagine. Gardeners are usually better at this than kindergartners, but I could give it a quick try. So I guess just the premise is when a bee visits a flower and transfers pollen from one flower to another, then it actually changes the morphology of the flower to turn from a flower into a berry. And that berry, start out white, and as the sun kind of changes it to sugar inside, then it'll get darker and darker. So I usually pop it up and say, what fruit do you think that this flower will turn into? So that's a little cool. And I show them at first after it gets pollinated. This one's actually pollinated by those carpenter bees, those large carpenter bees that are non-native. And after it gets pollinated, then we can see the flower actually just starts to change shape and becomes our fruit. And then the fruit's ready to get picked, and we could open it up, and there's seeds inside. And if we plant each of those seeds, we could get, a flower for each of those seeds, an actual plant for each of those seeds. So that's how important pollination is. If the plant isn't pollinated, then it won't be able to be fertilized and have seeds in many cases. So then I go with this and say, what fruit do you think this will turn into? Anyone got any guesses?
Strawberry.
Strawberry, okay. Anything else? Any other guesses? You can shout it out. Anybody know? No? Okay, so this is an apple. So it starts out looking like this. After it's pollinated, it loses its flowers and grows into an apple. And there we have our apple seeds, so we could grow new apples. And then I show them this one. Anybody know? Tomato, awesome, good job. Yep, so after pollination, this flower is just going to grow into a tomato with seeds. And this one?
Eggplant? No.
So this one is actually blackberry. So each of those little things are actually flowers here. And if each of them gets pollinated, then we have a bunch of little fruits. So a whole cluster of fruits, and each of those have their own seeds in them. And then I kind of show them the hibiscus. So a lot of times we'll go backwards and be like, yeah, this is the fruit of the hibiscus if the hibiscus is pollinated. That's kind of some of the, lessons that I tried to create about yellow-faced bees, pollination, why bees are important, kind of thing. And a lot of the kids got really into kind of just different aspects, or maybe it spoke to them in different ways about bees in general. Let me just stop share for now. And so we wanted to try to share it with as many classrooms as we could. And there was a program, I wanted to, get something set up in the museum so that visitors to Hawaii could learn about the yellow-faced bees and maybe what they might be able to do to help out as well. So I worked with Jim Boone and several others at the Bishop Museum, and we got a teacher toolkit set up there. So any teachers there on Oahu could go to the Bishop Museum and borrow one of these. Looks like this. And so it's got a bunch of lessons here about pollinators and pollination and the yellow-faced bees in particular. It's got a nesting block that the teacher can show kind of this is what our, this is a model of a nesting block, and maybe have the kids come up with their own prototypes or on ways to build this. We did something similar with Iolani, and the students were doing 3D printed nest blocks and things like that. So it could really go in a lot of different directions for the nest block itself. It's really just the size of the holes. So the diameter of the holes, and that's about 3/16 of an inch, so about 3/32 of an inch for the drill bit. So I have kind of all that material in there that talks about the size of the nests, and we also have an exhibit in the museum. So if teachers wanted to do a field trip, if they could get to the Bishop, there is a display there about the yellow-faced bees. Try to share that. and we set up a Pollinators in Paradise iNaturalist project. So if you all use iNaturalist at all, this is a really nice program that you can identify plants, animals, basically any living thing, fungi, and then if you happen to record bees in Hawaii, then it adds these observations to our database, and we're able to see kind of how the observations of bees in Hawaii, and from there maybe see trends like where we're seeing more yellow-faced bees or less yellow-faced bees, and try to narrow down on conservation in that way. So apologize for the share screen jumping in and out, but this is the Pollinators in Paradise project, and so it's just at inaturalist.org, and then if you look up projects and then look for Pollinators in Paradise, this is it. And we have 1,800 observations of 71 different species, so it's kind of like our stats here, and kind of look and see what where the observations came from. The way we would use this would be if you go to observe. I'm not sure if you need to log in first, possibly. Sorry. Okay, so to observe, there's a button that you can just click, take observation, and this is usually on your phone that you're going to use this, right? So you're going to basically take a picture of whatever you're looking at, and then you share your observation. And so, like for instance, here I was looking at a Millikan cap, and it shows where you observe this, and I basically just took a picture and I was like, this is a fungi, but that's about all I know. And AI will take these pictures and kind of figure out, well, this looks like, and sort it into a category, and then experts, mycologists, will get on and approve it, suggest IDs, and then we can narrow it down that it probably is the milky cone cap. And these become, after a certain level, they become research grade. So for instance, when we look at the observations for Pollinators in Paradise, you can just go to projects, and here's Pollinators in Paradise. It takes a second or two to load up, but it shows kind of we're seeing more of these carpenter bees than anything else. That's our most observed species. We can generate maps from this to see all the locations and of the yellow-faced bees in Hawaii. So it kind of puts them out onto this grid. It's taking a bit to load. But you'll be able to start seeing these observations kind of pop up, and we can click on any of these observations to get more details about it. So I think this will be a helpful tool for conservation, for researchers in the future to find out where different bees are. And so that's kind of the second part of the Pollinators in Paradise program. So this kind of citizen science project that anybody with a smartphone, they got to do is take pictures of bees, load it up to iNaturalist, and then you'll find out what the bee was, and we'll find out where the bee was, kind of thing. And then the teacher's toolkit, it goes through our Google Classroom. So I think I can just click here. Are you able to see this now? So this is a Google Classroom.
Yep, you can see it.
I have these lending box stations. So these correlate to the actual lending box. If you were to pick one up from the Bishop Museum to take to your classroom and show the kids. This is our first station is Healthy Habitats, and this talks about nest design. There's a couple little activities that they could do to try to make their own types of nests, or dioramas of the different habitats that the bees use. Kids really got a kick out of this activity, and that we have some other interesting, I guess, articles and things like that about native pollinators kind of spread throughout. So this one's about the Kamehameha butterfly, how to identify it, DLNR's video about it. Pollinator trading cards would be another activity that could be done with the kids to try to encourage them to learn about bees or show the diversity of bees or pollinators. Kind of treat them as heroes. And then we have Station 3, the bees of Hawaii. So this will tell the different types of endangered bees, which it kind of goes through what the different species are and how you can tell them apart. Other links here to articles and things like that, other resources that the teacher could use if they want to dive deeper into it. Some of the problems with bees are these ants get in and just destroy their nests. So this is a kind of good STEM project, is how can we set up their nests and keep the ants out. We've had success using Tanglefoot, which is a non-toxic sticky material that we put on the outside of the nest that the bees don't, it doesn't seem to affect the bees, but keeps the ants out. There's a link for the yellow-faced bee headband that the kids can print out, and it works best if printed out on the kind of a more heavier cardstock, but you could also maybe print it out and kind of tape it on something else. So these are the resources that we've put together, and I'm going to try to continue to add to this whenever I come up with something, or another teacher comes up with something, or a student comes up with something to share, a way that they got the ideas across about bees and pollination, and especially kind of native plants, native pollinators. So I have a plant list here that we're kind of adding on to, and the life cycles and development. There's some videos that talk about bee life cycles and development. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. We do have a Facebook page that we kind of add stuff as posts as new things happen. So have some nice videos and things like that on there. A couple papers that were recently put out. And so that might be another resource you may be interested in. And then this is the actual exhibit at the Bishop Museum, or part of it. So this was filmed before kind of the costume was made, but there's a yellow-faced bee costume there now as well that the kids could put on up in the treehouse. So we have a video that loops. There's this sliding magnifying glass, so you can look at the different species. There's a magnet board where you can move the bees around and kind of role play with what the ants are doing and what's going on there in the habitat. This is up by the volcano in the treehouse at the Science Adventure Center. So you might hear the volcano in the background. So there's more there now since this video was taken, and I need to get in touch with someone there that can kind of maybe film that in with better sound. But that is pretty much it for my presentation. So I'm going to stop share here and just kind of field questions and see what you guys think.
That's awesome, Jason. Sorry, I haven't been to Bishop to see it. I feel bad. Has anyone else? Had to go. It's all about COVID, huh?
Yeah, I know it's been closed off and on, or limited in what's available now to check out there. So kind of as we were in the process of this grant was when COVID happened, and then we had to shift gears, and that's why we tried to put a lot of stuff on that the Google Classroom, because we figured maybe that's what teachers could be using. And we were hoping to have someone at the Bishop to be able to zoom in with teachers too and be like, yeah, this is our collection of yellow-faced bees, and show that stuff off, and share the exhibit as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Is anyone having trouble joining the classroom, the Google Classroom? Thanks for posting that, Wendy. I think you have to have a Gmail, like an actual Google email. You can't use your institute's Gmail, if that makes sense.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I could maybe share it in a different way if there's a particular resource you're looking for. And we were thinking maybe there's a better platform for all of this stuff, but I'm totally open to ideas. The grant's already kind of finished, so there's no additional funding for this right now. But I was thinking, if teachers are interested, here's all the resources kind of that we pulled together.
Yeah, it's awesome. So feel free to jump on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say there's such great resources, and thank you so much for sharing them. And a question from the chat is how long do the yellow-faced bees live?
So this is kind of really hard to get at because you'd have to maybe be observing the same bee and know you're observing the same bee for that whole time, right? Most solitary bees only live for a few months. The yellow-faced bee, the way that I guess I could best answer that would be I went out several times and painted bees, male bees, just on their thorax, a different color every week. So I would go out and I would paint, a certain color, and then I would go back out and look and see. I would paint about 10 of them, and then I would go back and see if I would still see the color from, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. And we saw the males at least 8 weeks later. So I'm not sure if the paint, possibly we could have seen it longer than that if the paint didn't target them for, to other predators or something like that. We don't, know that that's the case, but it's kind of like they almost had a handicap with, with the paint on their back, but they still lived for 8 weeks. So we weren't able to have the bees survive in captivity. I mean, they were able to survive in captivity on food, but we weren't able to have them nest in captivity. They mated, they survived on food, but wouldn't kind of nest in the materials that we provided for them. So I don't know if they have to do a special flight or something like that. That's one of the things that DLNR was trying to look at, was maybe we could start a captive breeding program and get them, reintroduce them. But seems kind of difficult to do. It wasn't something I was able to solve in my time there.
You did a lot in a short time here in Hawaii.
Thanks. I had fun. It was great getting to know these bees, and such beautiful habitat to be doing research in. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but you came from studying solitary bees in Florida. Is that correct?
Yeah. Right. So I did my PhD on solitary bees, looking at the different types of tubes that you could set up and what dimensions they preferred and what types of materials, whether it's cardboard or paper or plastic tubing or holes drilled in wood. And and then I was looking for a job, and I was also really interested in endangered species, and heard about this bee in Hawaii that was endangered, and they were looking for someone to do some research with it. So it wasn't actually, I guess, categorized as an endangered species when I first arrived. It was in 2016 that they became endangered, or recognized as endangered species. So they were first bees.
We're so lucky you came, Jason, because you definitely opened those of us who worked on the yellow-faced bee with you at that time our eyes to this, not knowing, or at least not being aware of how important they are. And so I wondered if I could do a quick question on that. Back then when you were here, you had this idea, and you, I think, had even had permission to reinitiate bees in areas that had traditionally had bees but weren't currently there. Were you able to do any of those transplant type?
So one with Carl Manyaka, who's a bee researcher that I learned most about yellow-faced bees from, and he wrote a book about yellow-faced bees. But we did one project where we actually went and collected bees on the Big Island near one of the resorts and moved the bees to some conservation land nearby, and it was successful. So the adult bees were then found months later, and so we believe that they were successful, but there was problems with ants there, so as well. So the ants there kind of destroyed some of the nests, and even as we were releasing them, we saw some of the yellow-faced bees kind of landing on stuff and ants getting them. But so I think we hadn't actually done one with the nest blocks. I think that would be more successful, would be to get them to nest in the nest blocks and then move them before they emerge as adults, I think, because those nest blocks could be protected from ants.
And they return to the nest blocks. They'll use them again, right? Even if they've had bees in there or eggs in there before.
Yeah. So after one nest, after it gets used, one tunnel gets used, and they move out, then other bees will come and use the same nest. But yeah, there are not fire ants. It was the yellow crazy ant that was kind of one of the big problems. And there's also a tree ant, which I'm sorry, but the name is escaping me right now, that nests in the stems. And so the ants themselves also nest in the same material the bees do. And so I guess they run into each other pretty often.
That's in the stems of the naupaka?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah, comment. I mean, I really like this, further to get further grant monies and, really linking this up to class projects and student learning would be, I'm assuming, what you would like to see happen, or what's your vision?
Yeah, that's kind of my vision, is just to add it. It's just ways to add lessons in to kind of build a curricula that other teachers could, use as a resource down the line. So kind of the stuff I wasn't even really teaching at the time, just as much as doing outreach when I kind of started putting this stuff together. So I feel like feedback from teachers on how any of this works in the classroom would be really helpful too, to make it, I guess, more helpful for them.
That's great. I think, we have a few minutes left, and I wondered, there's so much on the Google Classroom to look at. I don't know if our teachers who are here with us today maybe we could take a couple minutes, look them over, and if everyone could find something to share back, we could hear or learn about something new that struck you, maybe something you'd be willing to use in your classroom. Or
I see a question about pesticides use in gardens. Can that kill bees? And it can. The smaller the bee, the more sensitive they usually are to pesticides, as far as kind of the studies that have been done. So the larger body size bees kind of makes sense. It would be less parts per billion of that pesticide, compared to a smaller bee. That would be a lethal dose for them. So good question about that.
Which is why we don't use pesticides in school gardens.
Yeah, definitely one good reason. Yeah, besides just the kids having to be in, there, and then we lose out on that science, right? Like, look, yeah, this is a pest. Did you ever find yellow-faced bees in a school garden in Hawaii? So yeah, when I shared at Iolani with the kindergarten class, I got an email kind of during, I guess it was their summer session, and one of the teachers had students out on the playground, and they had taken a picture of a yellow-faced bee that showed up on Iolani's playground. It was on the slide set, I think. So you can see like the red slide behind it, and the teacher got a picture of it and sent it in, and it turned out to be not a native yellow-faced bee, one of the non-natives, but I was just impressed to get it back, and from a kid, like a kid spotted it and shared it with their teacher, and it kind of the data got back to us.
I could share more about that group of kindergartners that you worked with. Still to this day, I don't know if they're 4th or 5th grade or whatnot, they still talk about the work they did with you, Jason. It was so impactful. They really, we all know these young children, they often, especially when they start out at school or in the garden, and they scream and yell about bees and they're scared. This curriculum got these kids to love bees so much, and tell their friends, and here we've got these kids growing to adults who will change things for how we treat bees. They just have this.
Can I ask a question, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Susan. I live in Honoka'a on the Big Island, and I work with mostly adult learners, and I kind of saw this presentation, so I kind of jumped in. I'm not in a school right now or anything like that, but I have my own school, so I give beginner beekeeping classes. A lot of times people think that honeybees are pushing native bees out, and also the other types of bees. And I just wanted to hear what you would say to that when people ask.
Great, thank you. Great question. Yeah, and it's one of those questions I wrestle with a lot, because I went to University of Florida and studied honeybees in the Honeybee Research and Extension Lab there, and kind of that was like, while I was doing work with solitary bees, I was also working a lot with honeybees. which are non-native even in Florida, right? They were introduced to Florida, they've been introduced to Hawaii, and the reason that I guess they're so successful is because they make this product that's delicious, and the beeswax that's super useful and helpful.
And Queens
And
is a
Queens,
huge
Queens
moneymaker
is,
for us.
yeah, in Hawaii, it's I guess last stat I heard was 3/4 of the North America's queens come from Hawaii, and more so in Canada. But yeah, so I think that honeybees definitely have their place. I don't think that there's a way to reduce their numbers in Hawaii, or even that they should. So the bees, I guess, that have been introduced to Hawaii, they were brought there through the agriculture community at the time, wanted to bring bees to be able to pollinate some of the introduced fruits and vegetables in Hawaii. So those introduced fruits and vegetables may need honeybee pollination, because I don't think the non-native or the native bees are doing a lot of pollination in agriculture in Hawaii right now. So I feel like that's why honeybees are important in Hawaii still. And then, but I guess the conundrum is honeybees also, as they are introduced, they bring with them any pests or pathogens that they may have, and some of that could be transferred to native bees. So that's what I wrestle with, is that those pests or pathogens, the mites that the bees have, or there's fungal or bacterial pathogens that they can leave on flowers, and if the yellow-faced bee goes to those flowers, could pick it up, and being naive to that particular pesticide pathogen, then it could be really harmful to the native bees. So I hate to leave it kind of so open as, not taking a stand on one or the other. I think they both have their place. I don't think there's any way that we could get, I guess, reduce the number of honeybees. Maybe in places where we know that it's very sensitive, where there are a lot of solitary bees, maybe it would be good to keep, some type of border for them. But honeybees can fly, 3 to 5 miles for pollen and nectar, so it's really hard to isolate them from the native bees.
Well, it sounds like yellow-faced bees are mostly by the shoreline.
True. Well, the ones that I was able to study were along the shoreline. There are some mountainous species as well, but they're I guess they have been found. Populations of them haven't been found, just individuals. So people have gone on hiking trips and taken observations of a few species in different mountain range, but it's not, I guess, not communities that we can kind of go back to a time again and learn more about those populations.
And is there a way to create habitats? I mean, I have, those little bamboo things with the little holes, and I have bamboo on my property.
Mhm.
And then you can make the blocks of wood with the drilled holes. Are there any other ways to create habitats for not just native bees, but it seems like the mason bee is really important. And then I was looking at all the other bees I didn't even know about.
Yeah, sure. So the carpenter bee, they're really good for lilikoi, passion fruit, passion flower, and they're trying to, I guess, commercialize the use of them in South America. So there's some researchers that are looking at ways that they can kind of use them for agriculture. The size of the hole is really the biggest determiner of what kind of bee you're going to get. So like a 3/8 or 5/6 of an inch hole is kind of good for those carpenter bees. 3/16 is usually good for solitary bees, and then going down to like 3/32 is kind of where we see the smaller size for the solitary bees. And I have those specs and stuff on a lot of this material here, but if you just want to, those I can be happy to email that to you, information about how to build a nest or something like that.
Oh, thank you. I'll go through everything, and I'm sure I'll find it. But I was just wondering what your perspective would be, because if you have bees in general, people just I found that sometimes they want to make you liable for the life of the native bees, which I don't feel like is the case, because their habitat and the way they produce young is just so much different than honeybees.
It is very different. Yeah, I agree with that. They have a totally different life strategy. So where honeybees, if you do disturb the nest, they're all these sterile workers that aren't going to, wouldn't be carrying on their genes by laying eggs, right? So if they sacrifice themselves by stinging you to protect their nest, then the queen can live on and lay eggs, all day long. So that would be the honeybee case. Whereas the yellow-faced bees, each of those females is out there and they're laying eggs in nests. They could maybe make several of these little nests, but if she goes, then she's not able to continue that work of laying eggs. So she's much less likely to sting, and yeah, so there's a lot of differences there. I kind of worry that people see these yellow-faced bees on a plant and don't recognize that they're pollinators and spray them, because they're like, I got these weird little black bugs on my plant, and yeah, I got to see a way to control them. So that was kind of one of my other drivers, was of trying to get the word out for education, is to kind of just let people know, if you see these, they're a good thing, and yeah, keep them going.
Yeah, there's an initial reaction, I feel like, from people in general of not liking insects, because you go into Home Depot or you go into any of these places and there's all these different chemicals they've come up with to kill insects. So I find bees sprayed with all kinds of things that they find, and it's and they don't realize that those things are actually helping them. They're helping their plants, their bushes, even if they don't have vegetables, or their fruits that they're buying at the market. It's interesting to see people's reaction to insects. I think we've really we've really distanced ourselves from the natural world so much that insects are no longer useful or looked at as useful.
Yep, Susan, you hit the nail on the head for why I think us in the garden with our students are doing the work we're doing. Got to reconnect them to all of the important things that 3.8 billion years of nature has resulted in, appreciation. And yeah, it's really a tough one.
Yeah, and any one thing that we do directly or indirectly affects other parts of the system. Yeah.
Wendy, Debbie, thank you for doing this. Jason, great presentation. I actually learned a considerable amount, and having helped install 3-4 gardens within a 1.5 miles of the coastline, and now can really appreciate this a little bit more. So really, really grateful. I got to bounce, guys. Aloha.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Neil, before you leave, let's drop a word in the chat. Just one word. You guys, everybody does it. One word, a takeaway from today. Don't press go yet. I mean, it's okay. Neo's grateful. He'll start it. But everybody else, let's wait. We'll all get our words, and then we'll drop it all at once, and it'll be a waterfall of takeaways from today. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm grateful to all of you. So let's get our words. Everybody got it?
I know it's supposed to be one word, but I cheated. So if anyone else wants more than one word, that's fine. I usually do one word. Are you guys ready? Are you going to say go, Wendy?
Yeah, sorry if I didn't answer any questions. I just noticed a couple in chat, but feel free to email me anytime. So you have my email. Feel free to share it with the group. Thank you all.
Okay, well, yeah. And if you do have a burning question, want to stay on, that's fine. But we want to make sure to honor your time. It's a little after 5, so
Okay.
go for it.
Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Ooh, I like that buzz. Oh, yeah, and
That's cool. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Inspired knowledge.
Thanks, Neo. Good to see you. Bye, Lonnie. Hello.
Bye, everybody.
That was great.
Thanks.
Yeah, mahalo. Very
Susan.
fun.
I didn't even see Jen. How did that happen? Bye, Wendy. Rosen.
Yes, that's so
Colin.
awesome. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
Hi, Colin. Good to see you again.
Yep.
Glad to hear about your corn. That was cool.
Yeah, that's great.
That was
I'm
fast.
hoping to use your book, Debbie, to teach them.
Ah, yay.
Nice.
Thanks, Colin. We got to do one about the yellow face bee, Jason. Come on. Let's
Yeah,
do
don't
it.
have make a book, Jason, that I don't have
Yes,
to.
it is a need. Yeah, there's a need for that for sure.
Actually, that's okay. I'm gonna stop recording. 'Cause talking here.